recruiters and our sales team. If you need anything, we're here to help you out, man. And last but not least, I'll introduce Jon Bach, the amazing Jon Bach. He worked at Corden.
8 years.
He's done a few keynote speeches for us at various events, Star West, Star East, and now he's at eBay. But welcome back, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Wow, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you, Joe.
and here's the title of his talk, and I'll get out of the way. So this should be entertaining. So there's multi-phases. We might go in a little late. If you have to leave, then you have to leave. But welcome, and thank you for coming and joining us. And those are the first time. Please be a part of the community. Stick around because there's a door prize at the end. Have a Starbucks gift card. So, thank you.
Wow. Where do I sit where I don't block the screen? Hopefully, Mark will tell me where I'm out of bounds here. Can you see the screen okay? I feel bad for you guys because I want to be on camera, but I don't want to block the screen.
You're good.
You think you came here to see me, but no. No, I came here to see you. And we're going to flip this. Outside the box, my people, my colleagues and friends. I mean, what an intro. I feel like, wow, I want to learn more about you and more about you. And I know Joey, but I want to know what you've been up to. And then like all these, because I left Seattle to go to the show, the major leagues, eBay in Silicon Valley. I knew some colleagues there. They said, come on down and come on down for a peer conference. And always up for a peer conference, right? There's like 14 of us, and we're gonna rock it, like 3 days, right? And I didn't know it was a job interview for 3 days. It wasn't, but it kind of was. It was all the people there at eBay saw me in action and passionate about exploratory testing and passionate about notions of quality. And for almost 9 years, I've been there until next week. I took a job at eBay Bellevue in April, and next Thursday I will be a Washington resident again. So I am thrilled to be back in the rain. I love the rain. I've missed the rain.
Seahawks.
Yeah. Okay. So I get on the plane. It's 10-0. And used to be a Seahawks fan, but hey, 8-0. Really? Okay, I'm a 49ers fan.
Oh.
So get on the plane and feeling good, and hour and 45-minute flight, we land, and we hit the Wi-Fi, right? Because you land and you pick up your cell phone, and woohoo, yeah! And I'm like, well, we're on a plane that's like 50-50 49ers. So I got depressed because what happened is we lost. But it was awesome to be on the plane and see Seattle again. I mean, come up once a month for eBay, but to be here around this community especially, it just feels like it's refreshing. And it gives me a chance to share some new material. I did this talk at Star West for a keynote with, 800,000 people in the audience, something I'd never done before. And I haven't done it since then, and I want to do it now. So enough about me. Like I said, I came to talk to you. So if you have a cell phone and you want to play along with me, I want to learn about you. This is a direct poll. Direct poll is a free, real-time polling app. They didn't pay me for this endorsement, but it works every time I've used it. It's super easy to use, and it's real time. So the questions that you're about to answer will show up on the screen the second you answer them. So let me give you some time to scan that. Is it working? Okay. What's the range?
It's like presenter will start the poll.
Okay, yeah, I have it. That's good. Presenter, well, that's me. I will start the poll. See, you're testing already. I got a room full of testers.
I don't know. Get on up there if you need to.
What do you think, Whitney? Is it working? Or you can type in the URL. Doesn't matter. Why do you think they put the URL?
Yes.
Anybody want to take a guess?
Not everyone knows where the QR readers are.
Not everyone has a
Right.
phone.
Or, right? None of it has phone. Did they think it wasn't gonna work? Was their confidence pretty low? So they're like, we better put the URL up there. Everybody ready? We on board? Good enough? I wanna
Can you
start.
put that back up for a second?
Yes, I will. No problem.
Actually, I discovered the URL didn't work for me, so.
Really?
Now I have to do the 16, yeah, I'm the guy that tries the other thing.
I know. Is it coming up? Searching for
Yeah,
16.
so
Did you get it,
I can
Jordan?
text you the direct saying if you need. Yes.
That is not a phone.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Short.
Try
I
now.
don't think I might have slides.
You know what you're doing right now as testers? You're being very patient for one, but you have a ton of expectations that you're running through. And I find that fascinating because you have a particular role that you're playing right now, and the role is to serve me as the proctor. Because remember, I did this only for the first time last year. It was a huge audience. It worked flawlessly. I was blown away. And so we'll see what happens here.
If it breaks, it will break on me because I'm not,
So there's
I
one in
don't
every
care.
audience. There's a natural magnet for bugs. Enjoy, maybe you're. URL? No?
What do you mean? Work for?
Is this whole thing a test? I mean, unless it's not work or who breaks it?
All right. So okay, shorthand. Who's in? Who's in? Okay, Joy. Okay. So if you need mobile device testing, Joy Schaefer is the one.
Are we automation engineers?
That's crazy.
yeah.
Oh,
no,
she
it
got
doesn't.
Maybe your phone.
You know what?
All right. So we won't hear from Joy, unfortunately. Sorry, Joy.
I finally figured it out.
You got it.
You got it? Okay. I'm gonna start. Okay. Do you see the first question?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Which best describes? Yes. Is that gonna go? No signal?
No signal.
All right.
This is the test.
This is the test. Yes. All right. I'm gonna reconnect. Send the bits through the wire. It's really strange. Why would it not?
There we go.
Oh, it's one of these things.
No, they just have to keep
I don't know how to do this mode here. I'm gonna have to minimize it.
Hit 2 screens. Project with the screen.
2 screens. Oh, right. Duplicate, right? So I can go like
Or you
this.
duplicate or project to another screen.
Okay. Thanks for your patience. I just want to see if it does. Okay. I want to say extend. I want to say duplicate, right?
Yeah, that'll do the same thing.
Is that better? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Duplicate. Okay. What best describes your current role? All right. So who's on the bus with me? We have 6 developer programmers, self-described. We have only 6 testers. People management. 1 automation engineer. Okay. 7 now. Okay. Someone. Joy. Is that who's late? Someone's late.
Can we vote again? Because we were waiting before.
You were winning before. Who's we? The developers?
Like the horse races up there, we lose traffic up here.
All right, well, that was fun. So let's do it. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so this is, where do I want to go? The results are somewhere. Where's my direct pull? It is now. Oh, there it is, the cockpit. That's focused on the wrong tab. Okay, and I say next. Okay. How many years have you been in software development? 2, 1, 1, 3.
So do
1,
you
3.
need?
Whatever you want, however you interpret that answer, I will.
There's a lot of experience in this room. Look at those numbers.
Wow, look at that.
Spring chicken.
All right. Okay, so that's why I came to talk to. See?
Little watches in this room in the room.
We won that one hands down.
Fire for the old.
All right, yeah. All right. Wow. All right. Seriously, that is awesome. Okay. Next. Have you ever transitioned between roles, PM, dev, or test?
What do you?
However you want to interpret that, we can talk about it. But the spirit of the question is a major paradigm shift, and that's the spirit of this talk. Is for 23 years I was identified as a tester, test manager, QE, QA, and then I became a PM, and my life changed a bit. I became a PM, like the cliche a notion of a program manager, like, when are you going to get this done? And
20 years
here's the
boss.
roadmap. Yes. Right. So, and it was fascinating to see, like, in that role, I became that guy, the nag, and is this done, and when is it going to be, who does what by when, that kind of thing. And I was worried because I was afraid I was going to lose my testing job. But I found that, no, I see testing differently, and I want to talk about what that transition meant for me, and maybe you can relate. In fact, that's apparently most of you can, in the way that I think you might be able to. But we're not done, so we have a few more. All right. If you took a person to lunch who is in a different role, what topic do you think would be of most interest to you? Mechanics of the role, the culture of their role, specific project details, solutions, methods, and tools, war stories, or something different? I'll give you time to think about it. There's a YouTube video. The YouTube video of my keynote at Star West where I did this, that was also the winner. Now, I'm at a testing conference, so I kind of figured that, but I figured war stories had a fighting chance. So the interesting thing too, a mistake that I made at Star in the keynote when I did this, I made an analogy about the people in this room were in a box. Right? There's 4 walls and you're here with me, we're in a box. Right? Until I was getting, I think, more results than people in the room. And I'm like, oh, we found a bug in direct poll. And someone said, no, we're live streaming. So people online had scanned the QR code, shattering my box. And it's like, that is awesome. They were literally outside the box on this. So if we were live streaming, maybe the same thing would happen.
I would like to point out that if you hear a bunch of war stories, you can probably get a lot of information about all of the other things.
Oh, the other
With the drama.
The metacognitive, so very good. I agree. Okay.
And yet, we still want them.
Yeah. Oh, what did you vote? You were in the green?
Wendy has we in it.
It does.
All right, next. What method was the most interesting when you learned something about roles specifically, in the last week? I'm going to guess you learned something about roles, about your own role, about someone else's role. What is the most interesting way you learned something about the nature of roles in the last week?
Anything about roles?
It could be something not on this list, or
you can click the screen.
you're right. I don't have something. I didn't learn anything about roles. I should add that. I do not purport to be the expert on roles, and I fear that there's a lot of common sense in this talk, so I want to have some fun with what I think may not be some common sense, and things that I've learned that surprised me about roles. And I bet you have as many surprises, if not more, than me. And I'm eager to see what your answer is. Took a class, meetings, I have a typo. I've talked to a mentee, mentor, or manager, had lunch with someone in my role, or had lunch with someone with my role, work with someone that worked on something, question the key assumption I had, looking at the screen for ideas, saw your comments, yeah, I would do that too. I'd be like, what? All right, work with someone, work on it. Which I've got. What's the most important thing you need from a program manager? However you define what your notion is of a program, and not a project manager. or unless you think it is, but I specifically am saying program manager. And then there's product manager, which is different. But a program manager, well, my definition is you run a program. Like, what would a quality program look like? And what would what would a security program look like? What would a accessibility program look like? If you're heading up a particular aspect of quality. I am a program manager for quality for the marketing technologies department at eBay. So we send you those emails and those push notifications that say you've been outbid, or the seller has initiated an offer, or something to get you to participate in our party that we're doing over there at eBay to hopefully get you to find something that's interesting and go bid or buy and check out, and that's called a conversion. And we like that. That makes us money, and it's really effective. And a lot of people find it annoying when we get it wrong, especially in Q4 if you're buying presents for other people, and we think, oh, you want a tiara, John, or you want whatever it is that I bought for a crazy event. Okay, most important thing you need from a program manager: provide clear info like dependencies. I cut off my own answer. I should probably go. Like dependencies. No, it's a bug there too. I can't read my own thing. Okay. Anyway, clear info. Clarity on what decisions were made. Useful meetings. Okay, so clarity and clarity. Look at that. So you just want to know what expectations to populate in your head so that you have an idea of what is supposed to happen. What does a bug look like? What does it mean when it works? All right. Has anyone from your role, who shares your role, asked you what your job was really like? Or sorry, that should be from outside your role. Has anyone from outside your role asked you what your job is really like?
It's like every day of my life. So what do you do?
Yeah, what is it?
What is
So what do you say you do here,
Yeah, but
Bob?
what do you do?
What do you
Yeah,
what do you
what do you
really
do?
actually do?
You just sit in front of that.
Okay.
What do you do?
Wow.
Why do they
I get that, so.
What are they doing
Yeah,
upstairs?
sort of.
Yeah.
I put that in as a cue because I have a testing spirit. Sure. Okay. Okay. How can testing be more valued by others who are not testers? Someone who is not in the testing role. Tell results or potential risk to business value, more bug advocacy or bug framing.
Oh, we should stop doing it.
More emphasis. Stop doing it.
And when like
So you can live without
missiles
that.
fall from the sky, like planes go up, we'll be like,
It is, I know, that's not practical.
Are you talking?
I admit, as a tester, because I'm testing, right, I have an expectation, and I loaded these questions. What I thought might be my answer, if I were you, to test some assumptions that I have, and I love seeing that. Okay, there's some interesting topics we could mine here in my slides, and there's some other things that are surprises.
I have a related story if you have time to hear it.
Yeah.
I love.
So I'll stand up so people get to me. So years ago, when I was working for ST Labs, I think. Now maybe anyway, I got a job teaching testing 3 weekends for Broderbund in Broderbund. I can never pronounce the German word in a non-German manner after having lived in Germany. No, but in San Francisco Bay Area. So I'd fly down there and I'd teach on a Saturday, and all their testers came in on a Saturday for this class. So the middle Saturday of this class, this guy shows up about 2 hours late, who I'd never seen before. And so I had good rapport with everybody in the room by then, and it was an all-day class. And so I'm giving him a hard time. I'm like, oh, you finally thought you'd show up, huh? You know, and one of the testers is like, that's the VP of engineering. He's everybody's boss's boss. And I'm like, all right, you know, so I continue teaching. Now this is, I guess I was working with Jon, with your brother James at the time, and we had this exercise where we had the testers do the triangle program, you know, the classic triangle program, and we had a little actual app. And so I gave them like 15 minutes to test this and write down their test case ideas, and then I asked them to put on a sticky note what percentage of the app they thought they'd gotten tested in 15 minutes. And, you know, everybody wrote stuff down, and we had this, you know, I drew this thing 0 to 100% on the board and put all these sticky notes up there. Most of them were clustered around, you know, 10 or 20%, and there was one that was 100%. And everybody in the class was like, ooh,
Yeah,
you know.
sure.
And then we took their, you know, what could you test? And I filled up 3 blackboards worth of stuff. These guys were great. They really knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the VP of engineering stood up and said, I've been in software development for more than 20 years, and until today, I had no idea what you guys did. I'm the one that put 100% on the thing, and I was so wrong. That has always stuck with me. It's like half of my job for my entire career has been educating people on what test does.
That's a wonderful story because see, I came here to hear you. That is chapter and verse what I'm talking about. That guy was in a box, and boxes aren't bad. Boxes help us focus, and they give us protection, and they eliminate noise. But isn't it interesting when we get out of our box? Of course, we've all heard testing outside the box, yes. And what that means, creative and think differently and break boundaries and do crazy things. Because if you're a tester in the audience, you identify with the main role, I think, that testing is, there's many, but is to find the truth, to dispel illusions, to get to the heart of what the value is of something by populating your head with expectations. And those come from all kinds of places, your experience and the spec, and a comparison with other products. These things are called oracles, the principle or method that helps us discern what the right answer is. So how could testing be more valued by others who are not testers? Well, yeah, what if we equated them with an emotional affect of a risk? We expose risks. And maybe this vice president saw, wow, that is not 100%, that's like 1% tested. All these ideas on the board,
Right.
my mind's blown. And that is important learning. Okay, that's my last question. So thank you. That I will. I'm not sure how I'm going to use this yet during the talk, but now I've got some ideas. My name is Jon Bach. I've been in testing and program management for about 25 years. I used to work at CoreDev, as Joe said, for 8 years. I worked for Microsoft and LexisNexis, and I worked for eBay for close to 9 years. And but here's my confession, and some of you know this, but I do not have a CS degree. I have a degree in journalism from the University of Maine in 1990. 30 years ago I graduated. That's insane. And yet I thrive in technology somehow. My brother James is pretty famous in the industry for being a deep thinker and philosopher and advocate for the craft of software testing, of finding the truth. And he convinced me in 1995 that I could use my journalism skill as a tester. And I'm like, you mean you get to break stuff? And his first thing he taught me, no, we don't break stuff. We find the breaks that are already there because it's already broken. Exactly right. If there's one thing I could say to the whole software development community is I didn't break it. I revealed where it's already broken in many ways. In fact, I assert to you, if I had a glass up here and I throw it to the floor, I didn't break the glass. I just creatively revealed many little tiny stress factors in a particular way. Right? So those of you who are married or with a significant other, you can say, honey, I didn't break that. I just merely revealed that it wasn't good enough for our household right now. That's why kids' cups are plastic and they don't break us, but they need to be resilient. So that's me. I told you I'm coming to Washington again, and I look forward to rejoining this community. And I'm always looking for ideas. I think ideas are safety, as either as a tester or even as a program manager now that I've been. And I'll tell you more about what happened to me in a bit. But I'm always worried that I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not agile enough, I don't have the right war stories or enough of them. And I totally forgot about the Triangle program. I've done 500 interviews for CoreDev over 8 years. I use that Triangle program almost every single time. And almost every single time I was blown away at the creativity. Even when someone was stuck and I just gave them a little hint, they would explode with a new idea and go down that way. Now, they weren't all hireable, of course, but what I looked for and would almost hire instantly is if they got it from their chair without me asking and went to the whiteboard and and asked me questions. Everybody just kind of gave ideas. Very, very few people pushed back saying, well, what is this thing? Is this for preschoolers? Is this for... And I'm like, I'm glad you asked. The first version of the Triangle program, you put in 3 integers and you hit submit and it'll draw the triangle, right? Well, the first version is going to preschoolers. Oh, okay, they have ideas. And some astute candidates would say, you said the first version. Is there a second version? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Oh, yeah, it's going to General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman. It's going to go into missile defense systems. Same code. Same code. There's no big deal. It triangulates the maximum explosive power over a particular landmass. And so even though that was, at one point it was improvisational, because I'd switch it up depending on the candidate, because I wanted to see how could I spur their creativity. And as a program manager, when I work with testers, I feel like it's not all about test cases. It's not about automation. Tell me what interesting thing you found, and that will help me tell stories across teams. I am a program manager across 21 different agile teams in marketing technology, all of which are usually mostly in the back end, doing feeds and as clicks come through and processing conversion and measuring and making emails and sending them out by the millions. Everybody's got a different lens through which they see the world. And the more I hear war stories, and hear yours, and I hear yours, and I hear yours, and now I'm in a meeting, and someone says, well, we're stuck in this. And I go, no, Joy was just telling the story yesterday. You don't have to invent. She's building a Triangle program. So you can reuse her code. I wouldn't recommend on missile defense systems until we test it a little bit more. But that nice ability of being cross-domain out of any particular box has been rewarding 10 times over. So, but here we are. Here are our boxes. We have all these things, even our responsibilities, our domain of what we think we're responsible for. I say think we're responsible. We can talk more about that. Goals, departments, values, all these things define us. And that's good until it isn't. And I'll tell you a few about where my path was just at eBay. So I started as a QE director for search on the front end. So you're going to eBay, you go to the homepage, you do a search. Okay, that was my team of 8. And tell me about how search works. I learned about indexers and aggregators and different ways the servers process and failover and really interesting ways that the strings are processed. And then I became, 6 months later, there was a job that opened up by clear coincidence for live site quality, like production bugs. There was a team of 2 testers, and they were cross-domain. They just found anything on the site that was meaningful or followed up on customer reports. And I'm like, that's a dream job. I would just love that. So it opened up, and the timing worked out. So still in testing. I went to a tooling team called End-to-End Solutions, so it's automation, doing end-to-end integration testing. And then I went from there to do more back-end stuff on something called Commerce OS, so standards and practices for how code is delivered at eBay. And then I became a quality evangelist because a guy role opened up and he needed somebody that needed to motivate and inspire his team. And I wasn't really happy in where I was, and there was another reorg. And you know, these roles emerge, but a pattern is quality, 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 sort of quality, director of like standards and practices, evangelism, engineering excellence, and then out of nowhere, an agile coach. And I began to learn a lot more about agile than I ever thought I'd want to learn. But notions of agile. What does it really mean to follow method versus a principle or a practice? So those are all my boxes, and they taught me something different. And I didn't even put the latest one because it's something that I just told you about. The marketing now, what is the expectations to have as we build ways to reach you guys, to remind you or inspire you to find what you might be looking for on eBay versus Amazon versus Etsy and all those other places. Risk was the last one, that's right. Before I was in marketing, I was in risk. So common theme, but very different boxes. So my perception though, when I became a PM, was that if you identify as a tester, you you run particular notions of what a test is to verify and validate expectations. But it occurred to me that you're kind of like the flight data recorder on an airplane. You show what happened, you collect data, you may correlate theories of what happened, because you can probably open the box and go, well, we think Malaysian flight MH370 ran out of gas. Well, wait, how could it run out of? It crashed because the pilot and co-pilot fall asleep? Were they incapacitated? Was it terrorism? My other brother, Rob, who's an airline pilot, thinks that maybe it was, it was a really elaborate suicide, right? Like they have to disable all of the systems that keep that airplane alive in terms of knowing where it is in space and time. So literally, no one knows what happened to that flight. You can inspire new theories with your work. You're also the first thing sought after when something bad happens. Like, did you know about this? Could we have found this earlier? Do you know anything more about this? Is there anything on this word on the street and from customer support? Are we getting data around this? And this is my favorite one. I came up with this as a kind of an experiment, but it occurred to me that you, as a tester, have integrity as one of your major weapons. And that makes you crash-proof, especially when you go, listen, I could be wrong, but XYZ, it seems like this. It appears as if this. And all that stuff is called safety language. Because you're giving yourself humility, right? You're acting humble because you know you could be wrong. And that is a trait of a software tester. Because there are times I've been cocky and I've been wrong, and that sucks. Like, this is a bug. And no, this is the way it's supposed to work because you didn't configure your machine correctly, or you're looking at the wrong thing. So that's one. So I'm talking 3 basic boxes. The black box, the one that has the data, the one that collects the data, the one that's sought after in a crash, the one that has integrity. That is your box, in my opinion, as a PM. That's what I count on. I'm on the plane, and maybe I'm a flight attendant or whatever, right? And I'm serving customers, like, do you have what you need? And hey, put on your seatbelt, and this is how the flotation devices work, and the program manager. That's kind of the ethos of that, right? And then you guys are like, okay, how's the plane doing? And so I don't have to think about that until I do, until you acquaint me with that particular these set of attributes in that role. Okay, let's stop here for a second. On this slide, is there anything I'm missing in the black box analogy? Is there something you can think of that I missed? Because I'm a program manager now, so I'm not as much as a tester, and I want you to test me on this. Is there something profound or interesting to you about being the black box of a software project that I missed? Yes.
Making the data accessible when something happened, but it was because it was the normal product running at runtime, for example, testing in production. And do you know what happened? Do you have the data to show you what happened? And can you share that data?
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, so that's kind of like first thing sought after in a crash, or is it different? Did you mean something different, like that it's full of data?
Well, first thing thought after a crash, but which was not intended. It's like,
Yeah.
I didn't just make it happen on my desktop, it's happened in production or it happened in the lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the particular notion of you are the container of the truth, which the data might represent several truths, but let's see the data and make some interpretations. Okay, good. Yes.
Context?
Such as?
Context.
Like what? Like what kind of context?
The black box might record everything from turbulence to things like the pilot is obviously drunk and is going all over the autopilot, had to be initiated several times. Like, you can give context to what
Yes,
you're
I get you now.
seeing.
Because data doesn't speak for itself.
Yeah.
The plane's going like this, and you're like, oh, it's the stabilizer, the passengers, right, CG is off, the center of gravity.
Right.
Well, wait, it could be 50 things.
Yeah.
But wait, you were on the flight, here's what happened, here's some context. Or, I like the 737 MAX, right, here's a context, sensors. Sensors are doing a job incorrectly. And that's important context. Because when maybe you were like me, when you first heard about the Lion Air crash, you're like, oh, that's unfortunate, they didn't follow procedure, or it's pilot error, right? Because how does the plane plummet from the sky? That's got to be like some mistake, right? And because it was like they couldn't find any mechanical thing, right? So good. So context. That's a great addition. I should add that to the slide. Yes.
I just keep thinking we should shouldn't we have done this in the simulator?
Shouldn't we have done this in the simulator?
That's like tester, like
Yeah.
QA or stage lane.
Okay, so getting data before the data, like before live, like
Yeah, before it goes into production, yeah.
yeah. Okay. Let me take you. I'll take you.
Not all planes have black boxes. Should all software have testers?
Wow! Not all planes have black boxes. Should all projects have testers? One of the original questions, I took it out because I figured you would all say yes, is should we keep in our industry the centralized testing role? And I thought I would pin yes off the charts. And the reason I put it in STAR because we had a lot more diverse audience and I was curious to see what happened. It was still pinned to the right, but that's a really interesting, maybe not. Maybe the assumption that every project needs a tester. Or what if you're a startup, like you and I, man, we start a company and like, all right, do you want to be the tester today? Or it's like, all right, so how do we agree on what's good enough to get out the door? Awesome.
Let the customers test it.
Yeah, or let the customers test.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, every project does have a tester, so there was gonna be someone in the company or it's gonna be your customers.
A lot of companies, you remember Y2K? Y2K, a lot of companies, their philosophy was, it's too expensive to remediate. We will roll the dice and we'll take a risk. They did risk mitigation. So even when you find bugs, right, there's no guarantee they're gonna get fixed. Because the business has to say, well, is it worth it, right? They do that analysis the best they can. Okay, what did I miss, Wendy?
So, I was gonna say, as a tester, having a black box is great, but you still have to form a hypothesis from the data, and then you have to repro. Now granted, I would not want to repro a plane crash probably in real life, or dummies or whatever, but
Yeah.
you still for the most part, in order to verify that the bug is in fact the bug, you need to hypothesize this is the cause from the data that I have, and I can prove that hypothesis by actually recreating the bug.
Is that how? It seems like context. It's very similar.
It is part of context. It's just I think being able to repro is key. Otherwise, it's almost you're not gonna be able to say it's
not gonna be fixed.
Okay, I see it. Okay, somebody just clicked. You take the black box and you plug it into a simulator with all the servos and everything,
Right.
and you rerun the tape through the physical servos that will show what the actual plane, or through the computer, right?
Yeah.
And, okay, good. So not only context and capturing the data, but rerunning it to see it in its three-dimensional space. That is an important service. That's great. That is outside the box in terms of maybe it's something that we all do as testers, of course, but maybe the context matters on how we show up to do that. Yeah,
What happens when you take this down to the test-driven development level,
yeah.
where the developer is running the test before he writes the code for it?
I understand your question sort of, but I don't understand the
Well,
worry that you have.
Well, you know, I'm hearing a lot of like end user testing,
Yeah.
black box
Yeah.
here, but when you call a tester a developer
Yeah.
who's creating code, is that any different than what we're
Okay,
talking about here?
well, that's an interesting idea because developer, like I'm a developer in a way, I develop tests, right? If I'm a tester, I'm creating something. And I'm also testing my testing, right? I submit to you a test plan.
Right.
And let's say you're the VP. And I want to impress you, want to make sure so in the process of, well, we all write email. We're developing emails. We're looking at, or typos, our tone, our diction, who's it going to, how many people is it going to, when should I send it? If I'm working the weekend and I'm not supposed to, do I put on delayed delivery? You know, really interesting ideas there as a creator. So when I think of test-driven development, I think of a programmer sitting down saying, what test can I think of? And in my experience, they usually think of a really simple confirmatory test and they move on because they have a lot of stuff to do. And so it's one kind of box. That's good, okay? And so maybe having a QE engineer or a tester is too expensive at that point because you're just trying to do a minimum viable product, let's say. You're just trying to get something out the door. Enough testing that
it's kind of, I heard that with this, let's get rid of our testers idea, right, for some
Yeah.
projects, but then some people have like pushed testing down onto the devs.
Right. That's
Yeah,
right.
But are they the ones with the integrity?
All right. So I want to ask you. That should be a poll question. I want to add it. Do you think saying to developers, you need to test more, and saying to testers, you need to program more, automate more, does that help or hinder?
Hinder.
Okay. So show of hands, does it hinder? Okay. Okay. Most of you. Why? Tell me why. If you raised your hand. Yes.
Reason that the hinder is that developers develop data based on the business requirement and design. They are designer of the program. It's design. Their method of design and ship that at the door. They do minimum testing. They have to be, and you know that have pretty much gonna happen cases. A tester is different animal, different thinking. They have to think about integration to the other parts,
Right.
and based on customer feedback or customer usage of that. So they have to look a step back from tester role, but you have to actually, the testers, a lot of testers, good testers, have to think about overall of the project's success and how it's being used, like, used. You have to look at it that point of view in order to come up with a, API or application or how being used to come up with a test so it will be used in the general so it doesn't blow up on the customer face when it's being used.
Okay.
So,
All right. I submit that. Let's hear another one.
I think there's also like a internal bias that everyone has, where if you are trying to make the best test possible, you're not going to if you forged that glass, you're not going to throw it against the ground as hard as you can. You're going to gently drop it and then immediately pick it back up.
Right.
And so I think that there's just personal biases that everyone has when they go at a problem
Yeah.
to solve it, that they're going to want to solve it, not create more problems for themselves.
Love it. Okay. I think we all have biases. We use our biases for good, and we use our biases inadvertently for evil, and that's okay. Our biases help us find stuff. They also limit us. So that's why having imagine if Joey was doing the triangle program for all of you, right? I bet some of you I'd be really quiet and let all of you go first, right? Yeah, happy path. Oh, creative. Ooh, out of the box, and then it's like silence. And like, all right. What if we were shipping this to like General Dynamics and it was like for missiles? Like, I want to be the guy that's like, okay, that's a little crazy, but I'm also thinking I want to be plausible enough where they don't go, oh, he's a crazy guy. Like, because this happened to me, or this is the Ariane 5 explosion. They thought the code from the Ariane 4 was great, and they actually got it right. They mitigated the risk. They just didn't think of a tertiary failure of those 3 computers, and it's a corner case, but $5 billion worth of rocket is all over French Guiana. So it's really interesting when you study the Ariane 5 crash. It's fat. There's a video online. Look it up. It's they lament, the one who wrote it up was all about, oh, you be careful reusing code. But I think reusing code was fine. You just test it and you mitigate risk. And what's the likelihood of that actually happening? And they determined it was pretty low. Anyway, it's a fascinating study. So you're showing that there's, in your role, as you choose, as I threw the gauntlet to you, saying, how can I improve this slide? Some great ideas that help me. So I'm setting up this bit of a sandbox tonight with you and trying to flip the script and get out of the box of me as presenter, although it's kind of hard because I'm standing up here and you're listening to me. But I like how it's going so far because I'm learning some interesting things I could do to improve this next time. So but I want you to feel that it's a safe space to play. And Joy felt safe enough to stand up and tell a story, and Joe felt safe enough to call out some people, and it just feels like a great community. And testing is no different. So if you have a sandbox, another type of box, so it's where children try to play nice with others. So how does your feature work with some other feature, or the front end versus the back end, or end to end? You find out who you are, and what context you can bring, and what biases that you have. You can obviously test your assumptions about how things are supposed to be implemented. Of course, experimentation, smoke tests, configuring, operating and observing, and of course, learning. But it's also a place where basically failure has not as high of a consequence as other environments. Okay, so when you think about that particular app, that box, what goes on? Is there anything else when you think of a sandbox as in the role of a tester? Is there anything else that you can think of that I might have missed? Yes.
It's going to be paved periodically. You're going to reset and start over. So nothing. It's ephemeral. Right.
That's awesome. You just take the Zen rank, right? You have this little Zen thing. Okay. Reset. Nothing. No droids. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Whatever it is. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. It's a good idea.
Or sometimes you think you're in a sandbox, but really, it's a concrete, and it rains, and then you're just stuck. You're stuck in a sandbox. It's not a sandbox at all.
So tell me I get the metaphor, but how does it show up on a project? You almost had me, but I think there's something that I'm not understanding. So let's say you're in a sandbox. Okay, you have virtual machines, you got some servers, and it's all safe, and it's all gated, and okay, you do whatever you want.
Yes. Okay.
So how does that become concrete?
That's when they tell you, oh, that's our production code, and we just shipped it. But
okay.
It was a sandbox.
Yeah, right.
It was labeled QA.
I have something. So here's what I think of. Here's what you've triggered. Sandbox. Okay, it's a safe space to play, right? And it's you and me and her and him and wait, it's also the same sandbox that like eBay customers get to play in. So no wonder my stuff got messed up. Not only is it like pseudo production, somebody inadvertently said, "Oh, it's a sandbox for everybody." Like, we mean everybody? So it is kind of production. So you're right. That is it really a safe place to play? But here's the thing: who are the players? Right. Is it just employees or is it others? So the safety may be gated by a particular communal notion of what safety is. We agree not to mess each other's stuff up, but it's free for everybody. So it's like, whoa, it's like open source stuff. Like, you have to commit, right, and follow the conventions of the community of open source. Okay, so that's another way that we look at our roles and figure out like what our meaning is, what our context is for these. Okay, third box and last box, of course, tools. It's one kind of box. So your expertise, your knowledge is a tool. Of course, your skill, your experience, anything that's associated with agile methods like sprints and stand-ups and retrospectives and minimum viable products and all the usual things you've heard over the years, those are tools, blessing. Of course, you have your actual tools like Docker and Postman and your dev and testing tools. project management tools like Jira, which is, as a program manager, that's great because it's business, it's development, it's testing, it's program management, it's project management, it's product management. Everybody's in Jira. That's like my favorite place to hang out because I can do queries and do all kinds of different JQL filters that tell me who is supposed to do what and how things are going. That's my favorite aspect of a toolbox. Oh, so before I move on, okay, what did I miss? Anything that you can think of that you think about your roles? Jacob,
Your preferences.
tell me more.
So, in some sense, a tester is ultimately a proxy for the user. And usually that's pretty decent. Sometimes it's not sufficient, but most of the time it is. I mean, how do you determine what is quality, what is a deviation of quality, what is a bug? A lot of this ultimately kind of stems from your personal preferences.
I think that's profound. The lens through which you see the world is a tool you can take out of the box or put back in and pick another tool.
Yeah.
I am a 5-year-old Malaysian girl. How would I use this software? Right? If it's let's say it's GoFundMe or it's Kiva microloans or something like that. I put myself in that space, and maybe I'll find something different. It might be hard, but I'll have to conjecture. But maybe it could be a personal preference based on your experience or knowledge or even a bias. But that's interesting. Yeah, a personal preference on that. Sure.
One of the tools I use a lot that's not on that list is other people.
Oh, I was gonna say that.
Okay, well, if we're doing
Members,
that.
it's like, I don't know this, I can
Crowds
find
or-
out from this other person, or I can get this other person to do
Love
this other
that.
thing for me, or, yeah.
You reminded me of something James told me years ago that, because I felt like I was cheating by copying someone else's test ideas. He said, it's not cheating, it's distributed cognition. Right on. So I thought, like, when I'm taking a test, I'm not cheating. I'm just looking, that's my cognition. Okay, awesome, okay. All right, so what? So good ideas, talking about boxes and roles and biases and preferences and context and all this awesome stuff. I just think that, just like the triangle program, like you all go first and then the ideas just kind of peter out. Okay, so where are we now? What happens if we really break the paradigm? This is the crux of the talk, and I'll wrap up. There's a lot of rhetoric out there, and one of the roles that you have as a quality professional is to turn it into action. Another opportunity you have is to increase your influence in your role, and third, to elevate the state of our craft. Craftsmanship, craftspersonship. What does it really mean to be of service in a particular way, using your skill and experience and domain expertise to bring value to a project where they're just doing test cases or they're doing happy path automation or something like that. Where's the craftsmanship? And maybe it is in the automation. Maybe there's craftsmanship there, but how would you know? So one way is to turn rhetoric into action. Leader says, well, we value these kind of things. And you say, well, I value these kind of things. And I forget the author, I think his name is Gilman. Anyway, he talked about this notion of trading zones. So here's what you value, here's what I value. What do we have in common? Where do you want to trade? You got to have rice and I have a llama. All right, not much we can do, but do you have anything else that we can cultivate on the farm, right, that we both might need? I really like this notion of finding out the spirit of what people want versus just the letter of what they want. That's what I try to do as a program manager. Number two, manager says, do this, and you say, well, yeah, we have these other things to do, but so what I try to do as a program manager is influence or find what can be done within those limitations. Not unlike a trading zone, but what value can I bring despite those limitations? And also the elevation part. Anyone can do testing, someone says, you go, no, testing takes skill. And so one of the middle grounds might be, let me show you. And it's evident, these beautiful ideas. context and tooling and all these things that come out when we get together and share these ideas. We distribute our cognition to help each other in our roles become better, but also acquaint those program managers like me to have confidence, like, wow, those guys are really on top of it. Not only do I not have to worry, I'm inspired in a way that makes me a better program manager. Like, I should start measuring that kind of thing. Those particular risks you just came up with for black boxes, I should put those in a plan and have a work stream that says, are we on top of this? Because someone raised this in a meeting. I'd like to amplify this. Is she the only one that's concerned about this? Because I'm concerned now too. And invariably when I do this, people go, oh yeah, I didn't want to say, I thought we already were on top of that. I'm concerned too. Good. So it becomes like the fable of stone soup. I think a lot of my role as a program manager is I'm a traveler and I come to a village and the villagers are hungry and I say, I have a rock. And they say, that's not going to feed anything and feed us. Then I say, watch. So grab me a pot and put some water on, put it on the fire and get it boiling. And I throw the rock in and I say, eat up. And of course they, like, this is water. And someone who is impatient will invariably say, I have a carrot at least. We'll have carrot flavored water. That's something in boiling water. And so I have a potato and I have a tomato and I have rice and I have fish, and all of a sudden the stone was the forcing function for the stew that everybody eats. And all it takes is someone saying, I'm concerned about this, or what if that? And another person goes, I don't know, how about this? And someone built on it, and then we have this rich cognition that we eat now. So that is what I think one of my values to the company. Even though I don't have a CS degree, I can unblock someone. Let's say, Joe, you're working on testing or developing, and operations comes to you, or the site engineering center, and they say you have 20 service pools that need to be upgraded in the next 20 days. And here are the instructions, go do it. And you're like, seriously? And so you go back to your life, and I go, and I'm in the meeting, and I'm like, I got you on this. I'll make Jira tickets for each one, I'll make dates, and I'll send you a reminder like every couple days or whatever you want. And I also go to meetings, and if there's something that changes, or another team says, oh, you can run a batch file and upgrade all 20 immediately, I'll share that with you. So I agree to be your proxy, because I know you're busy, and you're smart in a different way that I'm smart, but I like to unblock smart, busy people, because I love when they try to unblock me, and they inadvertently do, just by being in a meeting with me and sharing information. I'm like, oh, that's good to know. Thank you for telling me that. Or over here, a hallway conversation. Well, that's good to know. And I'll park it. And so that, just like testing takes skill, there's a certain art to being a program manager in my point of view that I try to bring to the table. Above and beyond who does what by when, and here's a reminder, and I'll take notes in the meeting, and all that stuff. There's that seeing the big picture of it. So I'm counting on you guys, if you declare yourself as testers, to partner with me and talk and push back and be critical and skeptical and question assumptions. Hidden requirements, follow procedures, and not follow procedures. All right, what did I miss? So I'm a program manager, you guys are my testing army. What should I expect you to do? One thing that isn't on this list. Is there something I missed that's pretty obvious to you?
Don't you by definition cover everything by having follow procedure and not follow procedure?
What if it's, you can't define it as a procedure because there's no set of steps, but there is a heuristic for it. So it's sort of a pseudo procedure, but you don't know.
Improvise.
I don't know, I'm improvising. You're probably right. It's probably,
you said it, improvise.
yeah, you improvise. But that's not following procedure, right? So he's checkmated me on that. I have to give it to him. You kind of revealed a break that I didn't know was there. That's kind of a 404, because you're right. I can fit everything into that. So those are some expectations I have of you, and just like you guys in your work, if you're testers, you have to have expectations to populate your notion of what good and what bad and what unacceptable and what acceptable is. And so I'm counting on, and if these are unreasonable expectations for me to have of you, let me know, Because then we'll go into a trading zone of compromise, like, okay, what should I expect from you? Yes, Joe.
The other thing we need to provide is provide information.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we shouldn't always expect the program manager to come and poll us. When we learn something important, we need to push that information up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely right, and especially one like me that's cross-domain, because like 21 different teams, you find a way, for example, to do your software upgrades by using a particular kind of new sanctioned program by the scientist.
Script.
Yeah, or script, yeah. He wrote a Linux script, whatever, and so I'm like, oh, can I use that? Yeah, okay, no problem. So my job is to like collect this cognition. At least that's what I think part of my major role is, to be valuable and not just be like, oh, okay, not be. And sometimes I am a nag. I'm like, hey, you said you'd improve your unit testing and integration testing percentage by 10% in the quarter. There's only 2 days left. How are we doing on that? Because it is kind of one of our goals. Do you need any help with that? And if you do, I may have, I'll call a meeting with this guy who had a new way to improve that particular velocity of getting in tests, if that's the thing we want to measure. Okay.
I think there's one more thing there, is
yeah.
tenacity, be tenacious, maybe belongs on
Yes.
that last thing.
I was going to fool you because I had 2 more slides of this, right? Like I got I bet tenacity is on there. I actually don't remember, but it's like, right. Risks, inform me how things are going. Thank you, Joe. Escalate, push back, help me see blind spots. When I was on the risk team, I used to subscribe to this magazine called Fraud Magazine. It's an actual magazine, super cool. And I love the story. So it's this exploit. You create a check. It's a check writing program, a check production program, like a real check. Create the check and program us, would you like to print? Of course it's a yes. And the prompt would ask, did the check print properly? He's found out something really simple. If you hit no, did the check print properly? You go, no. It would bring you back to the previous screen and you could manipulate the check you've already printed. Then this is the guy who's arrested for fraud. and maybe it's part of his sentence to be part of to write this. After you manipulate the check, you get to save it again and then pull it. The discovery was you put a completely legitimate check and changed the information in the computer to say something else. So that is that magazine. What that would be called, so we're talking about, let's say we're on the risk team, we're talking about fraudsters, and then you raise your hand in the meeting and go, here's a particular thing we could learn from. I just read it in Fraud Magazine. And the first reaction I would have is there's a magazine called Fraud Mag. Okay, I'm going to subscribe to that right. So help me see blind spots, that's what that is. Wow, that's such a great creative thing. Expose risks, of course, we talked about that. Speak up when you're worried. Ask questions in different ways. Anticipate my scrutiny, hey, are we done? How do you know? Tell me more about that. Why did you do that test over this test? Or why is this number the way it is? Or I expect you to want to improve at finding risk. And that's why I think you're here, is to get ideas from each other. And that's inspiring to me, and inspiring to be your speaker tonight because of that. Let me know what you need, because I may not know. One of the things in my role that I love is you ask me something, I'm like, I don't know. But I won't go, I don't know. I'll go, no, I don't know. Let me find out, because then I become smarter. Right? By helping you, I have just found an answer. Now I have to find time to do it, but I actually like when people ask me to do stuff, and I have to, because it forces me to do into areas because of the ethic of wanting to be helpful. Argue your case, celebrate your skills. I don't mind when you high five. I used to do that too. I found a good bug. What did we catch pre-release? Let's just not talk about the bugs we didn't catch, but what did we catch before release? And I promise that I'll go back to my PM box and I'll investigate or confirm rumors, or I'll say, look at the decision log if our team has one. Here's why we did this. So I'll just rapid fire. Investigate, educate, coordinate, facilitate, mediate, ameliorate, elucidate, and advocate. And I wasn't trying to be playful until I hit these 3, and I realized that they were 8s, and I'm like, what else do I do? And I just started brainstorming. Clarity on milestones, making dashboards, even advocation, you say, I have a dashboard, and I'm like, yeah, let's use that. And then I'll just be the one that uses it, and I don't have to be the authority. I'll just be like, that's a cool idea, and it'll be the stone soup affect. So this is what I would expect you to expect of me. These kind of things. Also, I'll ask questions and provide expectations, report on risks, give you updates, unblock you if I can, milestones. Of course, that's kind of the more traditional program stuff, but it's something that the underlying spirit of the role is helpfulness. I want to be helpful. I want to help you get unblocked and rock and roll. All right, that is all I wanted to say about these expectations that I have of you as testers, as me as a program manager. Hopefully there was something interesting. I will take, let's do 3 questions, and then you can leave, and then I'm going to hang out here, and if you have more questions, we'll just jam. So if there's any questions about roles or PM or the spirit of testing, what's on your mind? Is there anything that resonated or you're curious about? Yes.
I just had a question about the PM role in general. I've noticed, at least at Microsoft and Google and some of these other companies, you're seeing that role being absorbed into something else or going away completely. And I know early in my career, having a good PM was pivotal to delivering the product the right way to the customer, giving them what they wanted. And so just as we're seeing tests sort of disappear in some of these companies and being sort of, meshed into some other sort of nebulous role, what are like the PM sort of, are they sort of not gathering together and pitchforks?
We're not. Well, to be honest, I have not seen that. I haven't seen. I mean, I've been at eBay, so I don't. Okay. There's no PM meetup. If there was, I'd be going. Maybe I'll start one. That's it. You give me a good idea. I will start a meetup, and I'll invite one or more of you to that, and you could crash our party. It's a great question. It's just like when the testing saying, "Oh, developers will do it." Like you reacted earlier, like, yeah, take it away, take testing away. We'll see what happens.
Well, we're seeing what happens.
We're seeing. That's right.
Recall bugs and these huge, embarrassing unicorn bugs that should never have made it out into the product world. We're seeing those all over the place. And invariably, you look at the company, it's like, you absorbed your test 2 years ago. What do you expect?
Here's a risk. There was a time at eBay where they laid off about 50 QE engineers in a department that I was on. And I'm like, this is terrible. This is bad. And nothing bad happened for like a long time. Yeah. And I'm like, what? Were those like incompetent, and maybe they made the right call? Like, who am I to say now? Like, okay, all right. So, but I do believe the surest way to see if something has value, take it away.
Yeah.
And that apparently, wow. Now it could be a sampling bias or a perception bias that maybe I wasn't looking in the right places that all those testers went. But it sure is an interesting thing to talk about.
Maybe they were just lucky.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's right. That's right. In fact, I want to. So, as a program manager, I have a program for quality for marketing tech. It's called Quality on Purpose. So we could get lucky. I don't want to get lucky. I want to be purposeful about how we're approaching these notions of how we're going to reveal weaknesses in our marketing technology, and that means rigor, and it sucks because rigor is expensive. It's like testing is a tax. Like we have to do these upgrades. We have to do all this stuff with the environment and in our ecosystem and technology. And people are like, oh, do we really have to do this? I'm like, yeah. You're reacting that way, I guess, because you don't see the value in it. Let me go get what they're trying to do. Why they feel that this is important to upgrade from this to this. And I think that's part of my role because I live what you're saying. Yeah. I think what value am I bringing? Because if they can take me away really easily, that's bad. So I have to create value of what I would want if I were you as a program manager. What is my program? What does quality on purpose mean? And it means to be purposeful. How do we do that? And thankfully I have enough experience as a tester and a test manager to say, here's what that program is going to look like. Security, accessibility, reliability, infrastructure, and quarter by quarter, here's some little expectations that you do. And if it's too much or it's unreasonable, let's talk about it. So But great question, and I actually am inspired to start a PM meetup. PMSig. You heard it here first, PMSig. Okay, another question. Jacob.
I've got, so just a curiosity about that 50 QA math when nothing bad happened. Did they perhaps adjust the aggressiveness or the complexity of the roadmap and all the new features and development that was rolling out? Or did they do additional discipline on greater de-risking?
We all just banded together and said, okay, we got to suck it up and just do it. So heroism happened. And that is great, it's inspiring, but if you're relying on heroes, right, that's bad, right? And that's a pathology, right? So my brother once wrote a paper, enough about process, we need heroes. It's 1994, 95. And after being in software development for about 5 years, I was like, enough about heroes, we need process. Like, because they left, right? And it's like, I'm burned out, or like, I relied on you to do that, Matt, and you're gone. It's like, oh, wow. So, interesting. All right, one more. Yeah.
What are the, speaking of roles, what are the roles in your quality on purpose sort of conglomerate team? Like, do you have engineers who are in marketing, working on marketing technology?
Yeah. So there are engineers, of course. There's quality engineers. There is the business unit. There are campaign managers who run like how many emails we're going to send. There are people who are in the back end from analytics, analyzing feeds coming in. So there's a variety of different scopes, and I'm trying to pay attention to everything. Like here's a particular program risk: dependencies. If an upstream system is down and that affects us, what do we do about that? Can we give them our tests? Like we give them our tests, so they run them first, right? So that's part of being deliberate. Instead of being punched and react when their SLA isn't met, we're like, they're down. What if we gave them our tests and they could run them and go, oh wow, that's good that we thank you for your monitors and alerts, or we set them up with pager duty or something that hits them on an alert and they can go, oh, we set a threshold and it just fired and we can do that. So as everybody brings their different piece of the puzzle in this matrix of things that we call marketing tech, I want to understand everybody's piece and say, all right, how were we not purposeful on that? Were we lucky? Because every morning at 8:30, I run a meeting called Dawn Patrol. And I open up a bridge, and it's all of the bad things that happened in the last 24 hours, right? And we talk about it. I make a spreadsheet, like who does what by when, and do we need a root cause analysis? Should I schedule a retrospective? Where are we at with this? What's the latest status? What's the JIRA ticket number? So trying to stitch everything together, and it's open. It's a Google sheet that's open to anybody. So they hit the URL and they could learn on their own time, like what bad things have happened in the last 30 days. Oh, look at that, it's an overflow. We're probably going to hit by that too. Hey, we have things buttoned up here? Like we're in Q4 now. It's holiday readiness time. So do we have the right capacity to handle all the emails we want to send, all the push notifications? So that's one example of how I see people in their different roles and saying, good to be in a meeting with you, good to be in a meeting with you, that's useful to know, and I'll put it and stitch it together and figure out how everybody can learn. So that being said, thank you for being here and being my audience and also educating me on your wisdom and experience, and it's a complete pleasure to be back here in the Northwest. So thank you for your evening. Like I said, I'm going to hang out here.